Estimados amigos, estamos nuevamente en este canal secundario de YouTube y el día de hoy les tengo un invitado muy especial. Es una persona con la que he trabajado, es alguien que me ha introducido al campo estadounidense, al terreno del sistema legal estadounidense. Él no es abogado, es un empresario, es alguien que se dedica a los negocios en Estados Unidos y pues quién mejor que él para que les transmite o les transmita directamente su experiencia y algunos comentarios. Espero poder ir haciendo algunas traducciones, espero que manejen bien el inglés y bueno, pues lo haremos poco a poco y lo trataremos de hacer de una forma despacio. Hi there, Tim. How are you doing? I'm very glad, very thankful to be here.
Yes, it's good to be here with you, Edgar. I'm Tim Heil, and I'm with the Global Professional Development Corporation. We provide online solutions for Mexican companies looking to enter the U.S. marketplace. We do capacitation, especially in the area of corporate English. We have USA technical English teachers, corporate English teachers, to help companies master the language and understand marketing in the United States. So that's basically what we do. But I've also been involved with cross-border consulting for trade and that kind of thing. And Edgar and I have worked off and on for many years together.
Thank you very much. You're not a lawyer, right?
No, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't give legal advice. I'm just going to give you my opinion as a businessman.
Yes, that's very important for us because we are very interested in your opinion as a businessman from the US, your experience in Mexico, working together, because my subscribers are very interested in that kind of issues.
Okay.
Well, first of all, tell us something about your experience working together in legal issues in Mexico. With notary publics, with Corporativa, incorporating a company. You have a company here in Mexico and in the US, and tell us about your experience, please.
Well, I'd like to start by saying that while both systems, the USA system and Mexico are very similar in many ways, okay?
Yes.
But there are also some huge differences. For example, you mentioned the corredoria. In Mexico, you need a lot of corporate documents officiated by either a notary or a corredoria. In the United States, we don't need that because corporate officers inherently have power of attorney, and they don't need to file those documents necessarily with the government. The notary is different here. A notary is a lawyer, and they officiate many types of transactions. And in the United States, a notary is not a lawyer. It's just a person who verifies your signature. You show them your identification. If you're signing a contract and they just say, yeah, I saw his driver's license. So that's basically all they do. So that here in Mexico, American business people need to understand a lot of regulatory things that are really different. So a person like yourself, it's a really good corporate attorney, can help explain that to American business people.
Yes.
How to navigate the system here.
Well, let's say I want to incorporate a company in the US. I will need advisors, right? I will need legal advisors, maybe accounting advisors, financial advisors, I don't know. But I don't have to go to the notary public, right?
No, you don't. In Mexico, the companies are established at the federal level. Okay, the federal government gives you permission to open up a company, right?
Yes.
In
Only
the
one
United
federal
States,
law.
yeah, only one federal, like, I guess, system. It has to be done at the federal level, not at the state level. Okay. In the United States, the federal government does not do that. It's the state governments that let you set up a company in their state, and every state varies. Every state has different tax benefits, different incentives, and and they're very friendly to foreign investors. A Mexican business person does not need to be a citizen to set up a company there, and they don't need any American people to own part of the company. They can just set it up on their own. Okay, so it's really different.
Yeah, so let's say, for example, I want to incorporate a limited liability company. How much time will it take?
It usually takes about 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Do I have to go to the US?
No, you don't.
Okay,
The
well,
only thing you have to go to the US for is to open up your bank account because,
only for
you know,
that.
yeah, to set up a bank account, you have to take in your corporate papers and identify yourself. And, that's the only time. But as far as setting up a company, no, there are many services that'll do that for you. But you should have some kind of at least business consulting advice. That's what I do. I don't give legal advice, but, I'll steer people in the right direction and give you the basics.
Okay, and for example, do I have to go to the US if I want to open a bank account for my company in the US? What
Yes.
maybe a representative or a power of attorney to do that remit, or do I
Well,
have to by myself?
it has to be the principal corporate officers, like the president or vice president. If it's the vice president or even a treasurer who does it, they have to present documentation because you'll have your bylaws and you'll have all your company
Yes.
documents and that appoints you to do that. There's a form that's filled out uh, from, let's say, the corporate president, and they have to, if they send the treasurer there to do it, an employee can't. It has to be an officer of the corporation to set it, and they have to present themselves in person.
And is it expensive to incorporate a company in the US, or it depends of each state?
It depends on each state.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all different prices, but you can usually do it for under $1,000. Usually, sometimes it's more. It depends on how many people you have on the board. Okay, and you should try to hire a consultant or somebody. Lawyers are going to cost you a lot of money. Okay, maybe $500 to $1,000 an hour. Okay,
Okay.
because it's an international company coming in. Okay, but your probably business consultants will do it for a fraction of that, at least to give you the basics and get you started, and they can give you advice on um, accounting firms and stuff like that. That's basically what I've been doing for many years.
Okay. So you will be paying to the legal advisors. There are a lot of work for corporate lawyers in the US.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of companies turn to business consultants. Uh, as long as it doesn't it's not involving the courts or something like that, or contracts. You should have a lawyer if you're going to make a contract. But as far as guiding you through the steps of setting up a business, so you can use a business consultant. That's
Okay.
usually what the businesses do. It's only when you get into legal contract matters that you really for sure want an attorney.
Well, here in this country, in Mexico, we have basically two kind of companies, commercial companies and civil companies. In the US, it's very different, right? It
Right.
doesn't matter if, for example, it's a very big corporation, you can give legal advisors, for example, advisoring, or you can real estate, something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
professional services.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have in your country, you don't think never in commercial or civil corporations, right?
No, no. Our system is, if we have a limited liability company. Okay.
Yes.
We have an S corp. Okay, and then we have a C corp. Those are the basics. Okay.
Okay.
Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't get into the finer details, and it's going to vary from state to state.
But
Okay.
for as a
So
businessman, what is more useful for you, an LLC or partnership or sole proprietorship or a corporation? What do
okay.
you prefer?
Well, a sole proprietorship is just somebody who has a small business usually, and they don't need to incorporate. Okay, like if I am John's home repair, okay,
By yourself.
by myself, and I repair homes, then I'm called a sole proprietor. Okay, I don't have
Okay.
a company. Okay, it's just me. I'm the tax sole. But if I'm an S corp, that's where this is a beneficiary. Okay, so the S corp won't pay taxes. Let's say the S corp brings in $1,000. Okay, well, the S corp does not pay taxes. Okay, but when, let's say, $500 comes to me from the 1,000, then I would pay taxes on the individual income on that $500 that the S corp gave me. Okay,
So do you mean that S corps don't pay any tax?
no,
Only the shareholders?
only the shareholders. Okay.
Well, that's very, very interesting because we don't have that kind of things in Mexico. We have only C corps in Mexico where the corporation pay taxes and the shareholder pay taxes.
Right, and it's similar, like in an LLC. An LLC can pay taxes. It depends on what you're doing, the activities you're engaged in. But let me say this about LLCs and S corps.
Yes.
They're limited to shares of 100%. Or, in an LLC, we call it partnership. We don't really call it shares. In an S corp, we might call it shares, common stock, or whatever, but there's only 100%. So maybe someone comes in and they give you $10,000 of 100,000, so they own 10%. Whereas a C corp is different. A C corp is used to especially invite investors. You can have 100 shares in a C corp, you can have 1,000 or 10 million, it doesn't matter. Okay. The other thing is that corporate officers are employees, like the president and CEO. Those people are employees, and so the company pays taxes, and everybody else who's an employee, like the president, he can take a salary of $1,000 a week, but they have to take out taxes on that, pay taxes on that.
Okay, my understanding is that C corps are bigger corporations, right?
Typically,
Or maybe I'm thinking about maybe the NFL, for example, is a C corp, right? Or General Motors Company is a C corp, right?
yeah, they have more. They can engage in more joint ventures and stuff like that. It gets kind of technical, and again, it depends on the state that you're in. Different
Yes.
states give different types of companies different tax incentives, different benefits. Maybe you're going to construct a real estate project, and you're going to put it in a city or a state where you don't pay any tax, or you pay very little tax on that project. In one state, in another state, you'll pay a lot of tax. So it depends.
I used to work with US companies, with Delaware companies. I've heard that Delaware is a very interesting state in the US for investments, and the statutory trust. And I've heard that the trust in the US, it's very different like in Mexico, because, for example, if you want to create a trust, you don't have to go to a bank, right? In the US?
Right. You don't have to go to, yeah. They have different types of trust. I'm not super familiar with them, but yeah, there are different types of trust. A trust would be similar, could be similar. Well, they're not exactly the same, but it's analogous to an S corp.
Is it very expensive, a trust in the US?
No, it's like setting up a company.
It depends, maybe, because it's not the same, for example, a real estate investment trust. Like, for example, a trust for my son, for example.
You're right. Right. There are different, well, there are different types of trust, and that's an area that I don't know a lot about, but it's, my understanding is in Mexico, you have to go through a bank, and there are limitations. In the United States, no, you don't. Banks are just involved as far as giving you a bank account.
Well, in Mexico, if you want to create a trust, you have to go with a bank, with financial entities.
Yes.
In every case, you have to go with a bank, and it's very expensive in Mexico.
Okay. Yeah, the process there is, it depends on what kind of advice. If you have a business consultant or if you have a lawyer do it. If you're coming from another country and you're going to set up something in the U.S., you do hire a corporate attorney, it's going to cost you more because it's an international company coming in.
Yes. Well, in Mexico, for example, you will be paying 200,000 pesos each
wow.
year, if you want to trust. Yes.
No, it's not that like that at all in the United States. No.
Yeah, in Mexico, it's very expensive. Or it could be more, maybe 300,000 pesos each year for and expenses of legal advisors and another kind of advisors, But Americans are very used to the trust.
Yeah, the other thing is we have to remember that the United States became very strong financially because they have a lot of options for foreign people. Um, the United States is not made up of one culture; it's made up of all cultures, and
Yes.
they're very friendly to investments. For example, a Mexican businessman or from another country who wants to get their U.S. citizenship, if they invest $1,100,000 into an American company, like a C corp, then they will be granted their U.S. citizenship. They don't have to have a big business plan or anything like that. Or they can invest $800,000 and have a business plan to hire a bunch of people in the United States. Maybe they're going to open up a restaurant chain. They're going to have all these employees and stuff, and they're going to invest 800,000. Then they can get their U.S. citizenship through that path. Okay. But the United States is really friendly to foreign investment. Very friendly.
Okay. Yes. And how do you feel in Mexico?
Fine. I think Mexico is a great opportunity. Remember that Mexico is the United States' second largest trading partner.
Yes.
Okay.
After
And
China.
after China. China's number one, but because of the geopolitical changes in Asia right now, China,
Yes.
okay, a lot of American companies, like 40 or 50%, have already either are in the process of moving or have already moved. For example, Tesla is coming to Mexico. So there's this new thing they call nearshoring. Nearshoring is where you're going to have your products made very close to the United States. The other thing that kind of motivated this is not just the geopolitical stuff, but when the pandemic happened, the supply chain hit everybody. And it hit the United States really bad because we had ships that were stranded in ports, couldn't get in. Okay. And the United States realized, look, instead of something coming, 1 or 2 weeks away, if it's made in Mexico, it's hours away. It's a lot simpler. So a lot of companies are looking at coming back here. And so to Mexico, many business editorials are now saying that Mexico is a rising star, that it will, in 10 years or less, be the United States' number one trading partner. And the economy of Mexico is really going to grow. So I think there are a lot of opportunities here.
Do you think Mexico is friendly with another kind of investors, for example, from the US or another countries?
Well, I think that the main thing is for the US is labor costs can be very effective in Mexico, especially in the area of manufacturing. And again, the cost of shipping. I think Mexico is number one or number two in automobile assembly. That's why Volkswagen is here, and
Yes.
Ford and many others. And I think we're going to see more and more of that expand. And it's not just about cheaper labor. The logistics location of Mexico compared to having things shipped on a big ship, 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles, that gets expensive. And again, the geopolitical changes with China is causing many countries now to reconsider, hey, what's close to my shore? Okay. And so Mexico, I think, has amazing possibilities.
Yes, and a lot of Chinese companies are moving to another countries, right? They are leaving the US.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that represents a very big opportunity in Mexico and in all Latin America.
Yeah, in fact, the peso has been gaining in strength. If you look at the exchange rate between the peso and the American dollar, the peso is gaining in the American.
Stronger.
Yeah. So I think there's a very strong future here. We got a few things to fix in Mexico, but every country has things they have to overcome and fix. Every country.
In your experience, what do you think about Mexican lawyers, Mexican corporate lawyers? We have been working together for many years. What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, many have knowledge, and many want to have knowledge. You have knowledge. That's the big difference. I've worked with a lot of different lawyers, Sometimes, in Mexico, culturally, it's not polite to say no. Okay.
Yes,
so
I know.
Yeah, so like if you ask somebody,
you gotta be very careful.
Yeah, you say, hey, what is the rule about this? And they'll say, well, it's this, because they're trying to be polite, or they're hoping to get your business and they want to act like they know what they're doing.
Yes.
You're a person who has always been very direct. Americans, we're very direct people. We don't take offense. Just tell me the truth, good or bad. Yeah, and you've been very straight, very direct with me. And on a couple things, when you didn't know, you say, well, I don't know about that. Let me double check, and I'll get back to you this afternoon. And I would rather have that answer than somebody who says, well, yes, I know the answer. People really do need experienced corporate lawyers here. And you're the best I've met.
Oh, thank you very much. And well, I think that it's cultural, right? Because in Mexico, we need more trust for making business.
Yeah, here it's what I've learned is that the personal relationship, somebody it's more important than, let's say, your brand name. So yeah, it's a cultural thing. In the United States, we don't worry a whole lot about it. It's trust, but it's different. It's really different. And
you know that in the US, if you violate the law, you go to jail.
Oh yeah, they're coming after you. Yeah, they're coming after you. Yeah, so like here we have to have a lot of the documents that are commonplace in a company officiated and filed with the government. Okay, because we don't want fraud. In the States, if you commit fraud by filing something like you're not only can you be sued, but they're coming after you. It's bye-bye time. So
Uncle Sam is coming for you.
Yeah, they're coming after you. So most people don't think about committing fraud. You still have people who do it. There's criminals everywhere. But for the most part, people don't do that. They people want to do business. They want to make money, and if you get a bad name, then people aren't going to want to.
Talking about the language, it's very important the English for the corporate lawyers. I use English with American clients. I used to work with US companies and Mexican companies with relationships in all the world, not only in the US. I mean, in Africa or Europe, for example, I have to speak in English, right? But A Mexican lawyer, what can do a Mexican lawyer in the U.S.?
Well, Mexican lawyers can play a big role in the U.S., representing either Mexican companies that have a presence there, representing them in Mexico, or U.S. companies that are located in the United States, but they're doing business here and they need a Mexican lawyer. So, you can have your services in the United States. Now, if you want to practice law by doing contracts and stuff like that, you should be a licensed lawyer in the U.S. But, let's say a company makes bicycles and they're in the U.S. and Arizona, and they want to sell them in Mexico, okay? Or they're going to need a Mexican lawyer. Just like a U.S. attorney would have to have a license in Mexico to practice here, it's vice versa. But if the Mexican lawyer is providing services on the Mexican side, okay, not the U.S. side, okay, he's providing services to an American business on the Mexican side, that's a great role for them, and many do.
Yes, and also for arbitration, right?
Yeah,
Americans
arbitration, because like when you make contracts, you decide what side the contract is going to be arbitrated on. If there's a problem, you and I have consulted on these matters because you are really an international lawyer. You've consulted for clients around the world and that had interest here in Mexico. And so in the contracts, you guys usually say, well, this contract will be arbitrated in this country or that country if there's a dispute, for example.
Yes, you are very, well, Americans are very used to arbitration, right?
Yeah, well, it's much faster. It's much faster because if you go to the court system, it's just as effective, but it could take you years.
It's faster, but I think it's more expensive, right? Well, in Mexico, arbitration is very, very expensive. I don't know in the U.S. exactly, but
depends on what the issues are. Depends on how big the lawsuit is and what arbitration issues there. There might be one or two, or there might be 50.
Yes, and it depends on the institution, right? Arbitration institution. For example, I mean American Arbitration Association, or maybe the International Chambers of Commerce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on a lot of things.
And also, I can be an arbitrator. You can be an arbitrator, and
well, to be an arbitrator in the United States, you have to be a attorney. You have to be an attorney at bar.
An attorney?
Yeah, you have to be an attorney, and you have to be a licensed arbitrator.
Oh, really? Well, in Mexico, you can be an arbitrator. You don't have to be an attorney.
Yeah. The Mexican side, I don't know, but the U.S. side, yeah, you have to be, for sure an attorney, and then you have to have a specialty in arbitration in your area.
Yes. Yes, that's why I think that it's very important to understand U.S. contracts, U.S. arbitration, and the relationship between both countries, right?
Yeah. And like I say, many things are similar, but many things are really different. And I think when we go from one country to another, we're going to take our understanding of our own laws and try to interpret what's going on in that country. Like if I go to Germany or Japan, I'm going to try to interpret their system in the light of what I know from the U.S., and it might be completely different. I think, the bottom line is that there are amazing market opportunities for Mexican companies in the U.S. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are unaware of it. One place that Mexican businesses can go is the United States Commercial Services online. United States Commercial Services list all the things that the United States marketplace needs, that they want. And there are a lot of opportunities, and a lot of people here are unaware of that. One of the things that I do is I help companies discover and find market opportunities in the U.S.
Talking about incorporating a company, you have only to go to the government website, right? And you can check the name of the company. If it's not already taken, you fill a form, and it's very fast, right? And in 24 hours, you can create your company. Maybe you will need a legal advisor, accounting, bank account, and that's all.
You don't necessarily have to use an attorney to set up a company. You can, a lot of people are just use business consultants. Okay. And they can kind of steer you through the basics. And then you set up your company. Now, at some point, depending on how you plan to do business, you're going to for sure want an attorney, because there are going to be contract issues, and business consultants cannot give you advice on contracts. It takes a licensed attorney. And Mexico and the United States have a shared history. A large part of the United States used to be Mexico. So the cultures are already intertwined. And I heard a statistic that 90% of all money that flows through Mexico, Central and South America goes right through Reforma.
Yes.
That's pretty strong. So I think Mexico, while it has a few challenges, I think they'll eventually overcome them. And I believe that they'll become the #1 trading partner with the United States.
Yes. Well, so thank you very much, Tim.
You're sure welcome, my friend. Anytime.
Thank you. I'm very thankful with you, and whenever you want, you can come back here.
I look forward to that, my friend.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias a todos por habernos sintonizado, y pues voy a dejar algunos comentarios por aquí abajo, y pues nos vemos en una nueva transmisión.